there is a lot of noise out there, but at the end of the day, you should never just be using AI for AI's sake. You have to see it as another leveling up, I think, of automation. They all are like, we're an AI platform. But like, what does that actually mean? Content and unstructured data is really the hot thing right now.
It used to be sort of the last stop of the business, right? Oh, we got to send Amy a bill. Please send it downstairs and print that thing.
And you did it because you were also forced to by compliance. You have to have that communication. You can be razzle-dazzled by anything that people are talking about in terms of AI or agentic AI, but core of your business has not changed. So why would you risk that? Because everyone always talks about like the single source of truth, but to me, that accessible knowledge layer, you have the archive, you have all of that memory, history, you have the context. The reality is like for the CCM vendors, those ECM vendors, they're coming after your piece of the pie. Are you going after theirs?
So I'm super excited to have Amy Machado from IDC Research, company that I've admired and followed for a very long time. So Amy, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. I just got my 15-year anniversary.
I saw that actually, and I was going to ask you about that. So, I mean, first of all, congratulations. You stayed interested in this industry for 15 years. So great job. But
yes,
as an analyst, but where were we 15 years ago? What were you when you joined IDC? What were we talking about?
Print.
Okay, you can do better than that.
Well, like my evolution at IDC, coming from, I started off as the production and industrial print analyst. And so a lot of CCM and the software around that was, print focused. My first job at IDC, my first job just as an analyst when I was at Info Trends, Cap Ventures back in the day was an Explore event in Anaheim.
Oh my gosh, we were both there.
Yeah. Remember the Giants? The Angels won. I think the Angels were playing the Giants.
They won the World Series that night. Yep. I was there.
It was
and that was a different event. Like Explore was a thing. Yeah.
Yep. They took us to Disneyland and everything, but very much like print focused back then. 100%. And so the evolution of that, I think, has what's kept me interested, I would say. Yeah. And then I took a stint because I love to learn new things, and especially about industries that I hadn't. I mean, I have an English degree, right? But I'm incredibly curious. So a few years ago, 5 or 6 years ago, I went over to the structured data team and focused on real-time data streaming analytics, everything Kafka. Yeah. And then the content space, document space pulled me back in 2 or 3 years ago. But that evolution from print and the more batch capabilities to real time, the world moves in real time. We as customers expect everything to be in real time. And then now back to the content space, it's really cool because we have this ability now to really structure our unstructured data. So to me, content really is, it's your enterprise data. So it's just very interesting to see, that evolution, the change over time.
So you got pulled, I think the word you used, pulled back into the document content space, the customer communication space, as we still call it, CCM. Mm-hmm. And you actually, I want to come back to that because you kind of talked about that term, and when I saw you in Chicago last month, and I want to come back to that. But so what drew you back? I mean, was it the fact that, or maybe not the fact, let me rephrase that. Why did you go back to sort of this space from where you were, which seemed like really exciting, real time, sort of right on the cutting edge, right? All the cool stuff. And now you kind of went back to looking at, well, how do businesses actually talk to their customers?
What a great question. What pulled me back, besides my former colleague, Holly Muscolino, being like, I need you.
No. I mean, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. No, I mean, I've not been bored being I would say I don't feel like I got pulled back. It's more like I moved.
Okay, maybe that's just me.
No. But I'm the one who said it first. I don't feel like I've been pulled back. I feel like content and unstructured data is really the hot thing right now. I have never been more in demand for my subscription service, for my research agenda, for my custom work. It is something that everybody is interested in. Nobody ever used to ask me, what's Snowflake doing in the content services space or unstructured data space? You know, I'm talking to companies that hadn't really traditionally been in our world of ECM and CCM and capture, as we call it, or IDP, intelligent document processing, as we call
inbound
it now.
side, all that.
Yeah. And so I've really been focusing on the full content and document lifecycle. And it really is truly end to end. And I would say that when I think about it, because at IDC, we're really pushed to do, you know, thought leadership and kind of connecting the dots kind of across systems that have traditionally been very siloed. And you know that, like outbound was very separate from inbound, the extraction, the classification. And there wasn't this, you know, this loop that people were thinking about it. And so as we're moving into, like, everyone wants to talk about agents and these agentic, like, what are the ways that what are the ways? It really is about just connecting, integrating in a light framework, all the different applications that everybody uses for all the steps of the life cycle.
It reminds me of a conversation I had with Anne-Marie Poacher from Papyrus, and she was talking about.
First of all, I love that I just had a briefing with her because I'm doing a CCM MarketScape right now.
Yeah.
And I was just talking to her 2 days ago, and we were talking about the Explore event. We were there at the same time.
Oh boy. Yeah. No, let's not go there. Let's not go there. Well, I mean, she kind of described it as, it's not, we used to think about it as, well, documents. Well, no, it's not documents, it's data. Well, yeah, but it's information and it's knowledge. And it's all of these things sort of colliding around what we used to call CCM. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's kind of how I see it. I see this. It used to be sort of the last stop of the business, right? Oh, we got to send Amy a bill, please send it downstairs and, print that thing, right?
And you did it because, well, one, you wanted to get paid, but you were also forced to by compliance. You have to have that communication.
But I think what I'm seeing, and I think maybe how my takeaway from your comments about how you kind of came back to it is that what we used to think of as traditional CCM is occupying a new space in the enterprise. Mm-hmm. It's sort of like, hey, you guys have been doing this stuff for a long time, and making sure it's accurate, and all the critical nature of delivering, particularly transactional communications. And now they're coming back saying, hey, well, wait a second. Sometimes you guys are the only touch point we have with our customer, for months, is the stuff that you guys send them. And so there's this recognition that there's just more going on around customer communications than just, compose the document, stick it in the archive, send it to the printer. There's a lot more going on there. And it's sort of my premise that I'm operating is that it's evolving. It's becoming, its role is it's taking on new importance in the enterprise and the stack as we sort of start thinking about all these different aspects of corporate memory and customer knowledge and stuff is all sort of coalescing around what we've been doing for years.
Yeah. Thinking about your content, your documents, that information, that communication as an asset to the business and as an opportunity. And then I think also with CCM, because of its transactional consumer kind of focus, like me as a consumer, I'm dealing with a company as a customer consumer, but then also it is about your partners. Sometimes there's internal applications, you have internal customers, and a lot of these like workflows, or when you kind of see it kind of diagrammed and mapped out, the lines are getting very, very blurry between what was CCM or what was traditionally ECM, or what is kind of file sync and share and, sending out safe links or virtual private data rooms. And, all of these things, we always kind of kept it siloed based off of it had always been CCM, and this is the department that was in charge of that.
Yep. It would belong to IT, right? That's ours, right? We own that.
Yep.
And well, that's why I talk a lot about MarTech and sort of this. I use MarTech as sort of the big galactic, ecosystem that is everything.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And then CCM is sort of this little teeny tiny speck in that galactic universe. And there's just so much that is. I just see overlapping between the two, but the big difference being, the major factors, compliance, regulations, audits, all of those things that are sort of unnatural to those systems exist in our world.
Yeah.
And I think that's where there's this interesting overlap of sort of those marketing people sort of like, hey, you guys touch our customers and know a lot about our customers. And then the CCM guys going, yeah, I wish we could do prettier statements and, have more engaging opportunities and could have this look more, all of the things that everybody talks about on the marketing side. They both kind of want what each other has.
Yeah. But then also this conversation of like the right communication at the right time.
Yep.
And what does that actually
mean? With the
mean?
right words in the right place and all the stuff that matters for audits.
Yeah. And then the technology orchestration that kind of has to go into that. It can be very complex, I think.
I want to change the conversation a little bit and get your thoughts about customer experience. We talk about it all the time. I'm not really sure what it means, to be honest, because it takes on so many different forms. And to me, customer experience isn't really it's the result of a bunch of processes, but it's not something you can go buy. But the industry talks about it like you can just go over here and we can deliver customer experience. Oh, okay, whatever. You mentioned this a little bit in your talk when I saw you in Chicago, where you kind of were talking about sort of, and I just wanted to ask you about that because I think you mentioned it more along the lines of CXM and sort of how it's kind of lost its meaning or doesn't really sort of fit the market. So maybe you could talk about that a little bit because I'm kind of curious about the role of customer experience and how we talk about it.
I mean, did we start calling it experience because it just sounds like sexier than CCM? CX.
Oh gosh, don't get me started on that.
Yeah.
But yes.
Or
I don't know.
Is it customer journey? Is it customer life cycle?
It's omni-channel communications. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
One question I have: can you actually outsource customer experience? Totally separate question, but we use that term a lot, and sometimes it frustrates me because I sort of feel like it's just like, it's all in the name of customer experience. Well, of course, you've got to have good customer experience. Can we all just agree that's true and move on?
Yep.
I think every company is trying to do that to some degree.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's so many different layers to it. When I was presenting in Chicago, it was kind of like CCM is CX, but to me, it really is about being kind of dynamic and frictionless because you're trying to provide information to people. It has to be compliant. It has to be personal. It has to be, for me and where I am and maybe in that experience or my journey. I also hate saying journey because it sounds like I'm talking about like I'm on The Bachelor. I've really enjoyed this journey with you. But then it also is like how you're presenting, your brand to the world. And so, yeah, I don't know if we've really set, because also to me, customer experience has never really felt like the right name for it because CX to me has also kind of just been, like you mentioned, kind of like marketing focused, selling, those types of things. And also like CX means something very different to every different type of industry. My experience
absolutely.
As a member of United Healthcare is very different than my experience as someone like in the Rhode Island Energy, for example, or your experience is different as a supplier to a manufacturer. And so I feel like it does feel like kind of like a squishy wrapper that we put around.
Yeah. Well, and depending on whose research you follow, it seems like every year we're moving backwards in terms of what consumers think of the experience we're delivering. I mean, I know, Matt from Broadridge always does their big piece and they focus on that a lot. And it's always sort of like, And I don't know it's because the experience is getting worse or the expectations are actually going up. Like there are certain brands that are setting the bar, and it's sort of like, if you're not that, then you're, lesser.
Yep. Oh, Matt from Broadridge. He and I grew up together at InfoTrends. I worked in the same cube next to him, his first job, I think, out of college. Not that I'm trying to date myself in any way.
Well, I'm trying to get Matt to come on my podcast, so maybe this will be what I'll have to show.
All right, come on, Matt. Let's see it. Because he's still in North Carolina, right? They moved. I remember he moved
so,
when
yeah.
we were together. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I forget what we were talking about. Oh, like what some brands do it really well. But I think you just hit on something when you were like, our expectations are kind of evolving. But I think also a lot of that has changed because of, the iPhone and those real-time experiences. And the complaints usually are, you're not giving me the right information at the right time, or this form isn't pre-filled in. Like you already have this information about me, or I've already answered this question before, or, a delay. I can even tell when something is batch of like, if I pay my mortgage statement and then their dashboard isn't immediately updated. Like that kind of makes me crazy. Cause I'm like, I know it'll be updated tonight or maybe in 2 hours. But yeah, that expectation, I think that I want it now.
Yeah. Real time, instant. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, before we move on, I wanted to just touch base on something you mentioned, or at least I was triggered my thinking. I'm currently interacting with a number of firms in Southeast Asia, India specifically, and everything is on WhatsApp. Everything. They send me the bills on WhatsApp. It's all WhatsApp. I'm just kind of, what's the holdup in the US? I mean, is it there at some degree, or are you seeing any companies saying, this WhatsApp thing actually provides sort of a different level of experience and functionality to our users that is that instant, here it is. Why haven't we evolved yet in the US, I guess is my question.
I remember a few years ago, I was doing a project on check printing and like the market for micro printing.
It's still out there. Absolutely.
Yeah, of course. But when we did some research, like some geographies skipped that completely. They never even really had that. Like the Chinese market or like some like the Southeast Asia market, they were so far ahead in what they were kind of doing with like mobile banking that we were. And I think because we had certain technologies first, it's much more of a slower move. Like you don't know what you had. They don't know what they've missed out on. I mean, not that you've missed out on check printing, but
it was a necessity. Like they had to figure it out. And this was sort of the shortest path to an answer was
right.
To do it.
But I mean, I'm Gen X and I won't do certain things on my phone. I need to be in a web browser experience, So I wonder if some of it might be generational for us, and that might be in the US of pushing it forward. Because I have a 17-year-old and she doesn't do anything on her laptop except for Google Classroom. Everything is in her phone.
Yeah. Well, I have a 24-year-old and I ask her, how often do you collect your mail? She's been living independently she's married now, but she's like, she had to think about it. She's like, we probably go every couple of weeks to our mailbox.
Wow. Yeah.
And she used to manage an apartment building. She said, we have to have like 4 bins next to the collection spot just to get rid of the stuff that people didn't take back to their room, take back to their apartment.
I think though that might be a problem for you because clearly you're not sending her enough cards and cute things.
That's true.
I have a mother who loves
every time you travel, send a postcard. Yeah, exactly. Maybe that's a great idea, Amy. I actually like that.
You'll get her to check her mailbox more.
Yeah.
My kid is always looking for a card with $5 from her grandma Patsy.
I was going to say, or a Target gift card or whatever. So how come so much of the U.S. conversation is still about print? Is it just because the way you just described it, kind of how we grew up? But it seems like the print sort of industry, broadly spoken, still has a tremendous amount of influence on what we call the CCM industry. It's still sort of viewed from that compose a document, archive a document, print a document, mail it. So much of the conversation is still just really dialed into that element, which is why I spend most of my time looking outside of the United States to have conversations about, the people that look at the US and go, you guys are crazy. Like, what the heck?
Yeah.
And how it's so different, and not evenly different outside the US, but different in different parts of the world in terms of almost a pure digital experience versus where there's still a lot of dependence on the mail. But people look at the US and go, holy cow, it's just this massive market. It's by far the biggest market in the world for this stuff, and it is the last one standing, and it's huge, right? Are we going to get away from that? Because it's sort of one of those things that I look outside the US and go, it happened there, it's going to happen here.
Anne-Marie and I were just talking about like the automated document factory, right? Like, to me, that's just, you're sending it to like your InfoPrint printers, your high-speed inkjet or whatever it is now.
Yeah, I don't want to diminish the fact that there are people out there that do that extremely well and provide a service, but it's very sort of old yesterday.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure some of it is compliance, rules and regulations, legal. And then also just the history of where this market has evolved from. When you and I were in Anaheim 20 years ago, we weren't asking, there was no iPhone. There were no applications like that. And so I think, but still, like in terms of volume, when I have my IDC data, I do a survey every year on CCM. And my favorite question is like, what are your top customer complaints? That's, people will love to tell you like what's not working, but print is their smallest channel in terms of volume and how they are communicating, followed by, web is number one, applications in store, face to face, is still way bigger than print.
But yet print is still a massive industry in the United States. I mean, relatively speaking. And I'm really fascinated by that. And I agree. I mean, even some of the work that I've done shows that 90% of a customer's experience with a bank insurance is digital, right?
Yeah.
It's not paper. It's not this. But the industry still sort of acts like there's an equivalency between this and all that other stuff. And I think I don't know, I still see that print-centric view of a lot of what's happening. And there's a lot of, I don't know if it's fear. I mean, I think the compliance question definitely weighs heavy, but I'm not sure that compliance often necessarily says you have to do it this way. They just are afraid of the risk of doing it any way other than how they've always done it.
Yeah. Maybe it feels like one less thing to manage for certain types of communication. Like, you'll get things in from your bank that the terms or something has changed. I'm completely online with my bank, except for like those types of documents that come in. And so maybe to the company, you print it, that it's sent, you can show proof of however that, we did print this, and you're not having to then manage like, well, was this actually delivered to their email? Was this actually delivered to the right, text, the right phone number? Even though the cost of printing and the cost of postage is huge. Like, if they decided that the cost of printing is still less than the cost the risk.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's often measured against risk of an audit or compliance, real or perceived potential compliance violation. So we haven't really talked about it, but we got to talk about this AI thing, the inescapable black hole that is AI. It seems like you got to have an opinion on it, no matter what you're doing. So how is that changing the nature of this business, and just sort of what's your view on where we are with AI? And I promise I won't tell anybody. I'll hit stop record.
Yeah. And maybe it might just be my personality, but when people were like, I hate AI. And I was like, AI has been around for a really long time. Machine learning, AI, it's not new. If you filed your taxes with the IRS this year, they probably use some document AI to extract your information, all those experiences. But I think that there is a lot of noise out there, but at the end of the day, you should never just be using AI for AI's sake. You have to see it as another leveling up, I think, of automation. And so finding places where it can work, finding the places where, hey, it's actually, and if we're talking like generative AI or using large language models, it can be expensive, your token usage. Where does just traditional machine learning, work for a particular type of use case or document type? So I think that, every application from that I deal with in the content world, content services, knowledge discovery, enterprise search, they all are like, we're an AI platform. But like, what does that actually mean? And so if you can't show real ROI on how this feature capability helps you either improve operations, to cut costs, to generate more revenue, then, what's the point? And so their AI budgets are getting a lot more scrutiny these days. And so we ask we have a monthly survey called the Future Enterprise Resiliency Survey. And we've been asking them, what are you doing to kind of shore up those investments or to make the case for those investments? And the biggest thing is, like, we have to find use cases where it actually shows value. I would say, like, in the past couple of years, it's been a lot of top down. What are we doing with AI? But not really finding a strategy and then finding specific ways that it can work. But then also, you can deploy and turn Copilot onto every single person in your organization. What is their adoption rate? What is their usage? Have you trained people to use it? Are you actually getting real value out of that? And as token costs are kind of subsidized right now by the models. And so as that kind of starts to go away and people are really having to juggle their token usage and what they're actually spending, I think that people will really not a pulling back on AI, but really of like, we have to explain, audit, understand what we're doing, and then tie it to real KPIs and metrics, because also every company has ways that they track, operational efficiency, employee productivity, but now evolving those models to change with, implementing new AI technologies.
Yeah. Yeah. It is fascinating to watch. I don't think there's any more of an exciting time to be doing what we're doing because of AI, but I sort of feel like, at least in the customer communications industry, I feel like that it has maybe hit a little bit of a wall because of the compliance and regulation concerns and explainability and trust and all those other things. It feels like everybody's kind of like, whoa, hold on. And it's just because there is this, we haven't quite found the sweet spot, or I don't know if it's the technology hasn't evolved enough yet, but it feels more like people just want to figure out how to govern these things in a really predictable and reliable and secure way. And it's sort of like we're stuck until we figure that out.
Or are you on a version of software that can even run AI workloads? What is your data that you got in your archive or your repository? Is it even AI ready?
That's yes, I agree. That's corporate memory, right? That's context. That's
so maybe migrating, because like every CCM conversation, if you're changing technology providers, it is a migration conversation. Every company has CCM capabilities in some shape or form. And so if you want to evolve to a new platform, to a new version that allows you to access some of these capabilities, it really is all kind of about like migration. Well, that can be a huge cost. So, thinking about maybe AI and making migration easier. Do you need to migrate your 30,000 templates? Or can you find ways that you can kind of rebuild slowly, maybe like in a new system? But then legal and compliance might be like, well, nope, those templates are approved. Those are staying there. We're using those. It's because truly the number one focus for companies right now around CCM is still around like modernization, migration. It's not really AI. Yes, they want to do some of those things to allow them to have those more feature rich, future ready type of capabilities, but
that is, thank you for that. I mean, I think that explains a lot, and it explains a lot why we're still sort of in this world that seems to only exist in the United States, where we still have this tremendous dependence on sort of legacy systems and paper and mail. And
it doesn't get the love because like the structured data side of the world, governance, creating your data fabrics, understanding your data warehouses, your data lakes and all that, that's kind of gotten a lot of the love and attention, like from the big data evolution. You know, we're always talking about something new, big data, Hadoop. And then it was like RPA, you know, robotic process automation. And now we're moving, like, now it's the future is agentic. So
what are your thoughts on our U.S. Postal Service and where that sort of leaves elements of the industry? I mean, it's clearly having an impact. But what do you think about the Postal Service? Just as somebody that sort of has seen what's happened, I guess, over the last 10, 15 years.
I love the Postal Service.
Yeah,
my postal worker's name is Derek. He's an oversharer. If you ask him like where he's been for a couple of days, he'll tell you in great detail.
That's awesome.
I mean, you can't really talk about the Postal Service without talking about the politics of how they have to kind of manage and handle their budgets and everything. Right, I feel like we don't treat our Postal Service in the U.S. as a service. To me, it should not be a profit generating entity. I do feel like it is part of the lifeblood of the United States. It's an amazing, cool, great thing. And the postal rates that they have to charge, I think, are forced upon them because of them having to, like pre-fund all the retirements and everything. And then their board of directors and all of that, the politics around that and everything. So it makes me kind of like annoyed sometimes the way that people talk about how our postal service is running and everything. So
yeah, I think we're on the same page there, and I am a champion for sure. I think it's vital.
Yes.
But some things have got to change. And maybe part of that change is, as you're suggesting, is to get out of the profit business. And, even if they were just going to charge what it actually costs to deliver something to, end of the road in Wyoming, I still don't know that they'll ever be able to sort of keep up. I mean, it's just going to get like you go to Europe and it's like $4 to send something in the mail. And I sort of feel like we might be heading in that direction, although it's going to be slow and incremental. I think it could accelerate in the next few years.
I mean, all of like their software investments, that stuff is all, public because they're, a government entity. They are making investments, especially around customer experience, because like who do you complain to, at the post office, having like a better, more back and forth kind of CX experience. They are making, investments there. Or they had been. I don't know if some of those things have kind of been put on hold, government spending and all of that. But I think maybe they will remain in the future as kind of like the infrastructure piece, thinking of like FedEx. Think of all of the ways that we buy things online now, they have to compete against, Amazon because Amazon has their little go-karty types of machines now, but, FedEx uses them a lot, their infrastructure, their planes, all of that. But yeah, I think when we do think about the post office, we do think about like, I'm going to put a stamp on this and then, communicate that way.
My daughter actually had to call me and say, Dad, how do I address an envelope? And I was like, oh boy, I failed. We failed. It's just it's a different world. But I think I'm going to just go out on a limb and say it's pretty safe to say I don't think the Postal Service is going anywhere. It's just going to be a painful process to see where we head with it. So what's next for you and IDC? What are you focused on? What are you thinking about we need to know about in the next year?
Oh, wow.
Or 2 years or 3. But I mean, what's got your attention? I mean, what's sort of the IDC view of the things we should be thinking about?
So for me, I'm in the middle of 2 different marketscapes right now. One, intelligent content services, and that is traditional ECM, file sync and share. So you think your Box, your Highland, your OpenText, those types of companies. And then I'm doing one on CCM as well. And with the marketscape, we do an RFI to all of the vendors. And it was really interesting doing the RFI for both of these because things have changed so much in the past couple of years. And then trying to ask questions about how they're preparing for the AI future or the agentic future. And so many things that a lot of the companies offer, what is becoming kind of table stakes? Where do you actually really differentiate? And then how are you then competing against companies that you never really had to compete against before? Like, you're thinking about ServiceNow, you're thinking about, you're having to deal with Salesforce, like even not just like from an integration standpoint, but are they trying to take away, some of your market share and, the things that you're doing? And so then how do you stay kind of relevant and viable? And for me, it really is all about that AI ready data. And we say that, but like, as like a new concept, but to me, it really is about your metadata, your knowledge layer, that intelligence layer that you offer. And so the normalization of all of the different systems that might influence a document or a content. And how is that allowing people to have accurate, secure outcomes? Because the biggest complaint about inference when using an LLM is, I don't trust the responses or the answers that I'm getting, whether it's an agent asking, an automation agent, a person, a knowledge worker. So if you can't trust a query, then and so much depends upon that is like the prompt and how you're asking it. So how that really to me right now comes down to, is the data even kind of like normalized? Is your content, your information curated? What is your corpus of information that you're asking? The LLM that you're using to maybe like run particular use cases, it varies from if I ask it in Sonnet or if I ask it in Gemini. There's all these things. But to me, accurate, secure business outcomes, operations, experience, that has not gone away. So you can be razzle dazzled by anything that people are talking about in terms of AI or agentic AI, but the core of your business has not changed. So why would you risk that? And then what are you doing to kind of ensure that you are getting those like secure and accurate, compliant outcomes?
So kind of going back to what we talked about earlier, is that the role that CCM is evolving into, where we're worried about templates and composing documents, but that's just sort of way down the funnel, right? We're starting to get more involved in these things like AI ready, data. Is that a role that you see the CCM industry, again, I'm using air quotes here, sort of traditionally sort of starting to say, hey, we know how to do that. And we can do it as a service, right?
Yeah, like you could sell your like the knowledge layer, essentially, that access point, because everyone always talks about like the single source of truth. But to me, that really is that accessible knowledge layer. So who are you, the safekeepers of that content and that information? You have the archive. You have all of that memory, history. You have the context. How can you allow for that layer? Because we're also like, headless is hot again. Like how I engage with information might matter less in the future, but the data infrastructure underneath is really what drives everything. So if you as a CCM vendor have those capabilities and you have that orchestration engine expertise
and approval workflow and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And that's my belief as well. And I think that's why I'm super excited again to be sort of in this space, because I see the CCM. And again, you were very specific in that talk in Chicago where you sort of left it there. You're like, I don't know what else we should call it, so let's just call it CCM.
Yeah. Yes.
I may be summarizing what you said, but that's what I sort of heard.
Yes.
Because we don't know what else to call it, because nothing seems to really stick. But I just see that new sort of elevated role of CCM in the enterprise, where it is, because of AI and because of the need for data and clarity and that, system of record or system of truth or whatever it is, that's a place where I see the CCM vendors being able to go in and do that all in a compliant, regulated, way, auditable way, which is a piece that I think some of those other guys don't have or don't think that way, sort of naturally out of the box.
Yeah.
Like a CCM vendor would.
Is it unified communication? I mean, is it bidirectional communication?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it all operational? Yeah.
So, Amy, thank you. What did we miss? I mean, is there something that you want to add or share, or we should have covered or clarified, or anything that you want to add? We're going now on 40 minutes, and I promised it wouldn't be much more than that.
Well, if you're watching this online, I think that me and Andy are the best people to come to for your most high fashion glasses that are out there. I think my thing I would say is, if you are in a business and you are responsible for your CCM applications, your workflows, you're not really behind right now. I would say really think about it strategically as a strategic investment, because again, you probably haven't gotten a lot of the love in the past. Again, those migration conversations, that can be very, very expensive. You have SLAs and all of these things that you have to concern yourself with. So it really is kind of like a strategic investment, but not just like for you or where you sit, but you were talking about this at the beginning of our conversation. It's not just like that outbound, I'm giving you a bill. It does involve a lot of different parts of your organization, and a lot of CCM capabilities, automated document generation, can apply to different parts of the business. So don't just think about it as like an outbound, but think about like, well, how can our operations use that? Or how can our marketing team use this? How can our HR team, use this? So thinking about your investments, are there other ways to think about, because in the end, it's all content and unstructured data met with structured data. So when you're making those investments.
So is it more of a use what you already have kind of a story? Like your systems, because you've already invested in this in some line of business, or is it that sort of are you sort of saying to the CCM industry, you could expand your footprint based on sort of what you already know and can do?
I've been saying that for the past couple of years. The lines are so blurry between what has been traditionally ECM, file sync and share,
even
CCM,
MarTech, all that.
Yeah. And so the reality is, like, for the CCM vendors, those ECM vendors, those data lake warehouse companies, Salesforce, they're coming after your piece of the pie. Are you going after theirs?
Thank you. That frames it exactly. Exactly. So, but I love how you said they're not really behind. And I think that'll come as a big, hopefully a big sigh of relief for a lot of folks out there that I'm sure are under a lot of pressure, particularly with AI. And that is just every boardroom's talking about it. And like I said, everybody's got to have an AI story. And I think that's true for every business. And so
and talk to your vendors. Like they probably have a treasure trove of use cases where people have implemented it and want to share that with you. Like a very, I'm not talking about like building a point solution. I'll give you an example. Like Message Point just came out with Mercy Assure, and it's for companies that have for Medicare insurance servicers. And it is a very point solution for a very specific headache and pain point that those companies have to deal with. They have all the different templates they have to deal with. They have all this language that they're getting back from the federal government that is constantly evolving. It is like high pressure, and the impact on their employees is a lot. And so they thought, okay, we're going to build this to solve this very specific problem. But it's not a point solution in the sense that now MessagePoint has made this investment and then they can expand that into, other types of applications. So look at what they might be doing for something that you think, well, I'm not in the Medicare servicing world, but like, how could I then use that for like my pain points? Because also, everybody wants to be like thought leadership and where's the world going? But most people are typically investing in technology to solve a problem.
Yeah.
So,
it's something broke. We got to fix it.
Exactly.
Yep. Yeah.
How much is it going to cost me to fix it? How long is it going to take? What are the IT resources that are involved? Yeah. So if you know then that you have to fix a problem, that's when you start to be forward.
And that's what gets the focus and the attention and the, project management and all the resources. Yeah. So some things are universal, as they say. Hopefully I can get you to come back on again when you have something really fun and interesting to share with people.
Oh, after my MarketScape is done. How about early fall? We do it then.
Absolutely. That would be a lot of fun. Thank you, Amy, for being on. I appreciate it. It's exciting. Anything else you want to add? I'm sorry.
No.
We're good. Okay.